And then we are going to go ahead and move on to item number 4. If we can have the OPO staff come on up. I believe we also have some people from Equity Action that would like to join us. If you guys want to come on up and join us. And so we're going to be meeting our new director and also just hearing about the implementation of the APOA and of Resolution 99. Trying to decide which way to start here. Go ahead and start, Gail. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Gail McCant. I am the Director for the Office of Police Oversight. Thank you again for having us. This afternoon, I will briefly provide OPO's progress related to Proposition A as well as Resolution 99. Before I get started, I'd like to provide somewhat of an overview of the Office of Police Oversight for those persons who may not be familiar with our office. The Office of Police Oversight provides independent, impartial oversight of the Austin Police Department. OPO and APD are separate departments within the City of Austin, and OPO is staffed by civilian employees. We have 3 divisions, the Complaints Division, the Policy and Research Division, and the Communications and Community Engagement Division. Our Complaints Division accepts complaints and compliments about the conduct of the Austin Police Department and its officers. Anyone may submit a complaint to our office. That complaint can be submitted online, via telephone, U.S. mail. You can email, or you can walk into our office and submit those complaints. Our Policy and Research Department conducts academic, legal, qualitative, and quantitative research related to APD's policies, training, and other areas of public concern. Communications and Community Engagement Division are our professionals who bring the work and the services of the Office of Police Oversight to the public and to the community. Next slide, please. Just for context, I'd like to provide a timeline of how we got here. And so on February 23rd, the City Council passed an ordinance establishing OPO's authority. On May 6th, the voters approved Proposition A, and on May 16th, the proposition went into effect, amending City Code Chapter 215. On September 21st, the City Council adopted Resolution 99, and then there was an AG's opinion on that same day, issues related to G-file materia, and then there was a second opinion issued on October 18th, also related to G-file material. So just wanted to provide a timeline in terms of how we got here. Next slide, please. So regarding the implementation of Prop A and Resolution 9, I want to just provide a definition of what I'll be describing as provisions that are in compliance and those provisions that are in progress. In compliance are those provisions that are being fully implemented to the fullest extent by our office. And in progress, those will be provisions that still require additional resources to implement fully. Next slide, please. So here's a summary of our progress. We've made significant progress in implementing provisions of Resolution 99 as well as Proposition A in collaboration with our internal partners. As you can see from the graph, we are in compliance with 95% of the provisions outlined in Resolution 99 and 82% of compliance related to the provisions of Proposition A. There are 20 provisions in Resolution 99. 19 of those provisions are being implemented. There are 17 provisions in Prop A, and 14 of those provisions are being implemented. full implementation will be achieved as we work through some technology resolutions or solutions, rather, some staffing needs, as well as some legal concerns. Next slide, please. So as I close out, I want to just first thank the Office of Police Oversight staff, APD, the cities of Austin's IT department, APD's IT department, our legal department, and our city manager's office. They have all been very instrumental in the progress we've made implementing the Austin Police Oversight Act as well as Resolution 99. The progress we've made has truly been a collaborative effort as we've implemented the provisions. My ultimate goal is to foster a culture of, trust and accountability between the community and the police department. I really want to seek to achieve this by serving to facilitate for individuals seeking to address concerns related to officer misconduct and work to ensure that the Office of Police Oversight is not being perceived as a punitive arm, but more of a collaborative arm. I aim to position OPO as a restorative arm in a way that we are, regaining and rebuilding the public trust. And so that's the goal. The community has defined for us what they believe to be transparency. And we know that as they demonstrated by their support of Proposition A, and it is our role at the Office of Police Oversight to do our due diligence to review the Austin Police Department and ensure compliance with all the established laws, the policies, and the regulations. And however, trust and transparency, I believe, will be required by having just an open dialogue, an open and honest dialogue, which in turn will not only empower the Austin Police Department, but as well as the community. So thank you for having me.
Chris, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to address you again. My name is Chris Harris. I am a board member of Equity Action, a C4 organization that put forward the Austin Police Oversight Act, which became Proposition A and passed in May. Again, thank you so much for having me. I think, our perspective about the extent of compliance with Proposition A and Item 99 is obviously far different than what has just been presented to you. I think that the statements that reflect the desire for the OPO to be a collaborator rather than an independent investigator of the police department ultimately do reflect a cultural problem for us, in that the whole idea of the Police Oversight Office is that it's meant to be the people's representation with respect to incidents of alleged misconduct, not to collaborate with the police department to figure out how to address those issues. And I think that today's announcement requesting a DOJ investigation, requesting basically that the federal government come in and look at the city's failure to hold anyone accountable, and now the DA's failure to hold anyone accountable for all of the violence by Austin police during the 2020 protests, reflects an admission that the Office of Police Oversight simply isn't equipped nor culturally aligned to actually provide the investigatory capabilities that we as a city have demanded by putting forward and now passing Proposition A. I'm happy to get into many specifics with respect to this, but I would say that this presentation was pretty short on them, so I don't know if y'all want to get down into the provision by provision level, but I will say that, what we heard at the working group meeting, which, to be honest, is the first area of noncompliance with Item 99, because what happened 2 Tuesdays ago was no working group. It was a Zoom presentation, where we were told what was happening, not allowed to actually contribute in any sort of working manner. Was ultimately that admissions around a number of items that are not have not been implemented, and specifically around the access to G-file material, a straight up concession by the city legal representative that this issue would need to be litigated because they, despite the AG's ruling that the city does have the discretion about whether or not to keep these files secret, they continue to do so in direct defiance of Proposition A. So again, lots of difference with what was just presented to you all.
I do think I was expecting a little bit more by way of presentation. I was hoping to have a little bit more of the detail that the working group got with regards to the different areas and how that 99%, or I guess it's 95% compliance now, and the 82% compliance. I was hoping to see a little bit more detail with regards to that, like we did in the working group. I thought that's what we had agreed to. So I'm a little disappointed that we don't have more detail, but could you, Director McGant, speak to us a little bit about the delay? Like it's December, and I think that's one of my primary concerns is that it's now December, and we are now finally starting to see some of the details of how some of this implementation is happening or not happening. And yeah, could you just speak a little bit to that delay, why that's happening, how that process is working?
Yeah, I just want to say that it's, again, as I noted, it's been a very collaborative effort. Several departments are having to collaborate in order to ensure the implementation. And so just the coordination of all the other city departments have contributed somewhat to the delay in implementing all the provisions. So again, just coordinating each department's, coordinating schedules, coordinating meetings. Again, there is some technical or resolutions or solutions that we're still working on, so we haven't fully implemented the ordinance due to that. There are some staffing issues that we're still trying to address in terms of hiring individuals. The hiring process is taking a little longer than we had anticipated, but we are on track. We were doing interviews on last week. We anticipate hiring at least one individual in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll move with the investigative position, the hiring for that. So some of the technical solutions are still being worked out, as well as some of the staffing solutions that are still being worked out. As you know, there was and I won't speak a lot to the G-file material, our legal representative is not here, but there was a delay in terms of information that we could post after the AG's opinion, and so there was a period of time where we were waiting on information from the Attorney General's office. We got that, and it gave us direction in terms of how we could move in terms of what we could implement related to posting of complaints. So there's a number of things that have caused some delay, and again, there are some provisions that we will still not have the opportunity to implement to the beginning of the 2024.
Do we have any other questions? I know that, and I'm trying to mind the screen online too. So Commissioner Nguyen?
I'm just going to echo on what Chair Ramirez also said as well, is that I'm a little disappointed there's not a lot more information on there. But on the administrative side, I don't think we've received a copy of that presentation, correct?
No, we haven't. If we can get that posted to backup, that would be
so
great.
in the future, if we could just have that as in advance as possible, that'd be great, because I am more of a visual person. So for me to be able to see it and review ahead of time, it allows me to be prepared to ask you more questions as well.
Understood.
But I also recognize that this is a new initiative, right? I recognize that things take time to build, and I understand that, and I want to recognize that with you as well, Director, that there are going to be stopgaps, there are going to be hurdles and things like that. And I just also want to say that I appreciate you mentioning that we're working on this on a restorative lens. So just want to recognize that as well.
Do we have any other questions up here before I go to the screen? Commissioner Bernhardt?
Hi, is it Director McCant?
McCant.
McCant. Okay, thank you so much for coming today. I guess I'm going to reiterate that it kind of feels like a long time coming. And I'm really sorry I can't be there in person today. I've got some sort of family issues that are getting in my way. But I was curious. I wanted to follow up on your observation that you've been doing a lot of coordinating with different city departments or offices in terms of implementation of the Austin Police Accountability Act and Resolution 99. Specifically, which offices, which entities have you had to coordinate with?
So we've had to coordinate, of course, with the Austin Police Department. We've had to coordinate with the legal department. We've had to coordinate not only with the City of Austin's IT department, but also with the APD's IT department as well. And so some of that coordination in terms of IT is related to some of those technical solutions that we're still trying to determine in terms of posting information, creating links, where do we house information, testing. We're testing some of the platforms that we are using to determine if there are any glitches that we need to work out. So that's quite a bit of coordinating with the legal department. As you all know, there's been two opinions related to G5 material and coordinating regarding what information that we can provide for the public, what information that we can post to our website within the confines of state law. And so having those
I'm sorry, can I interrupt you there for a second? My understanding is that there are two Attorney General opinions. Can you tell me what your understanding is of the first one and what it said?
Well, you know what, I'm not an attorney, and we don't have our legal representative here today. What I do know that initially the initial opinion was that there was no G5 material. Then there was a request by the city for clarification, and it's my understanding now that there is G-file, that the city can maintain a G-file. And so again, the attorney is not here, and that's a question that legal would be in a position to answer.
Yeah, I understand that. I guess it's a little problematic that legal isn't here because there are a lot of legal issues. And I'm confused because my understanding of the first Attorney General's opinion is that it stated there wasn't a G-file because the Austin Police Accountability Ordinance eliminated any G-file categorization, any G-files at the City of Austin. Which seems to me it was an interpretation, actually I think it was explicitly an interpretation of Chapter 137, and it was understanding the Austin Police Accountability Ordinance as the City of Austin opting out of the G-file option in Chapter 137. Does that make sense?
Commissioner, I understand that there's a question related to the G-file material, but again, I think the legal department is in a better position to respond to some of those concerns.
Well, I mean, that would make sense because this is based on their legal opinions. But I'm kind of concerned that their legal opinions are just not reasonable. It maybe even sanctionable in terms of such an accurate representations of Texas law and the Austin Police Accountability Act. I'm not sure they have a leg to stand on in terms of saying that the act didn't eliminate the G file. I think they've kind of made that up. But to move on, in terms of, you mentioned all this coordination with the police department, city legal, and technical issues. Is it your understanding that the Office of Police Oversight is an entirely independent entity under the Austin Police Accountability Act with independent authority to implement the Austin Police Accountability Act?
Yes, ma'am, that
Without,
is.
okay.
Yes, ma'am,
So-
that is
so-
my understanding.
So what is exactly the point, other than slowing things down and interfering with the Office of Police Oversight's duties of including the police department in the implementation of the Austin Police Accountability Act? What's their role other than getting in the way?
Chair, may I answer that question?
Yeah, of course, Chief.
So there are certain laws that we have to abide by in regards to CJIS compliance, protecting personally identifying information, and keeping people on the right servers, and keeping the servers that are going to contain that information protected in the right way per FBI mandates. When we
That's
offer
really helpful.
when
Yeah,
we
no,
offer
I-
when we offer unfettered access to somebody to have complete and unfettered access to our systems, we have to make sure that those portals are secure, which is why IT
Sure.
was involved. Their logins and their trainings had to be conducted by the people who conduct the Axon and body-worn camera training systems. So
Right.
the hoops that she's describing are both legally and logistically necessary.
Commissioner,
Right, I
Commissioner
get- I get
Bernhardt,
that.
Commissioner Bernhardt,
Sorry.
can I interject for 1 second? I was
Sure,
just
go
going to
for it. I'm
say,
sorry.
just on, with regards to the CJIS compliance that you said, I know that the OPO office is supposed to be working on getting those certifications. How are those certifications coming along so that you don't have to rely on the Austin Police Department for that element? How are those certifications coming along? Are they in
Commissioner,
process?
even with those certifications, we still have to go through the process that was described by,
Yeah, they jumped through that hoop immediately and got
Yes.
CJIS certified immediately, very, very quickly. But they're still using our systems and our CJIS access. They get onto our particular servers, so they log onto our Axon system. So we're the ones who, if the FBI or DPS was going to come in and audit our CJIS compliance, and it was a user of the OPO, it'd be us who would be held responsible for that. So we have a responsibility to work with DPS, FBI, and OPO, and the IT folks to make sure that everything from A to Z is done by dotting our I's and crossing our T's.
Sorry to get down in the weeds, but is that not something like that credentialing process? Is that not something that can the Office of Police Oversight not get independent credit? Like, again, with the idea that the Office of Police Oversight is an autonomous sort of organization that can oversee the police department.
They did. They have that complete and independent CJIS authorization and certification. But in order to have unfettered access, they have to come into our system in order to get the data per Resolution 99. We're the ones that have the Versadex reports or our records management system or the body-worn camera or the use of force reports. All the things that are listed out in Resolution 99 are housed within APD's servers, the OSPIS servers, Austin Public Safety servers. And so for them to come in and reach out and grab that information, then they're now touching APD's CJIS compliant information, so we have to make sure that we do it appropriately.
And that's not something that could have been done in the last, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 months.
I think I actually have lots of questions, but I feel like we don't have a lot of the reference materials that we had in the working group to work from. I think one of my, and I'm going to let Chris step in. I just have one more question. I'm going to actually defer to Chris because I feel like he's got some insight as well. I noticed when we were doing the working group presentation that there was a lot of may language, M-A-Y, may language, sort of when we were talking about the implementation and reaching, like, as we describe a certain element of the ordinance and of Resolution 99, it was framed as the Office of Police Oversight may do this, whereas the city code actually uses the word shall, whereas Resolution 99 uses the word shall and will, whereas the APOA uses words will and shall. And so that slight change in language, to me, was troublesome because I remember the Office of Police Oversight issuing recommendations to APD to remove that sort of may language from some of their own general orders. And so I'd like to understand a little bit about how that change in language happened, where that came from.
Yeah, Commissioner, I'm not recalling specifically what area or section of the working group in which that language was used. So if you could provide some specifics related to that, I'm happy to answer that question.
I think one in particular was like the OPO can participate in investigations of complaints, may interview complainants and obtain more information from complainants, whereas the APOA ordinance just said that the Office of Police Oversight will do that, shall do that.
Yeah.
So, and little nuances like that really
Understood.
impact the scope of the work that you guys are doing and the ability to address it as completed. And so, again, I just want to get a better understanding of where that change in language happened. Where in this big, long process and all of this coordination did that change in language happen?
Yeah. What I will say is that we talked about this in the work group, that we are in the process of hiring investigative staff who will have the ability to, not may, but will have the ability to have a more comprehensive input in terms of the investigative process. And so some of this is related to, as I noted, as I went through the presentation, that there are some staffing needs that we are addressing. And part of those staffing needs are hiring the investigative staff with the skill set that can engage in the investigative process. I'm not recalling exactly where the number of mays that occurred during that presentation, but we do have the ability, once those staff are hired, to actually investigate per the ordinance.
So that implies that language will be updated when you have the staff to do so?
I don't know if that
Okay,
was just
okay.
language that was written in the script. I don't know that language is not noted, as you noted in the resolution or in Proposition A. And so we will be implementing the provisions that are within Proposition A and Resolution 99. And both say that we will investigate complaints, and that's what we will be doing. I'm not sure if may was just a language that was in the script during the presentation. Again, I will definitely go back and look at that language, and of course, if there's an update that needs to happen, we'll be making those updates to that language.
So my request would be that moving forward, when there are presentations done for the community, for council, for whoever it is that's facing publicly, if you are indicating that things are complete or there is progress, something, that sort of language choice matters deeply. And we need to be gauging the Office of Police Oversight's progress against the actual language of Resolution 99 and of the APOA. And with that, I was actually going to see if Chris had any.
Clarify one thing.
Sure.
So, Chief Greenwald, and Director, if you can interject as well, just walk me through that unfeathered access. Is there a pathway forward where OPO does not have to go through APD for that unfeathered access? Is there ever an opportunity for that? Because I think one of the things that we've been talking about is if OPO feels that they have the ability to have investigations without APD interference. Can you walk me through how that process would work if there's an investigation? If OPO is going to come in, they need to go into your system at APD headquarters, right? Or how does that process work? Can you walk me through that?
So they now have logons and secure portals so that from their own office, they can just log into our record management system and into our body-worn camera system. They have the same access that an assistant chief has in order to get in and look around and see things. They don't have anything that would hinder their ability to do so, other than if the internet's down that day. In order for them to be able to do so without coming to APD, they would have to maintain their own record management system, their own body-worn cameras, and they're not the ones who have the body-worn cameras on their chest, so I don't even know how to walk you through what that might look like.
Chris, you can talk about whatever you want to talk about. I, of course, have direct questions. I know that there are specific, like, sort of provisions of the APOA that don't feel like they're in compliance. And so I don't know if you want to talk to that or if there's something else. So you tell me.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think we, one provision in particular is around records management, particularly that the OPO maintain a database, a central repository of their own records. And I understand they're working through technical things or what have you, but like that is a core piece that remains unimplemented. They apparently do not manage their own records. When we look at the publication of information, provisions within the APOA demand that, that their recommendations be published for things like discipline and other things, as well as the chief's response. There's not been anything published about that, but at the same time, during this period, the OPO doesn't appear to be doing much of anything because there hasn't been any public record of any police officer discipline, I believe, in about 6 months, which, if true, if that's actually accurate, there hasn't been any suspension or firing that state law says is A-file material and should go out publicly. Would be some sort of record, I assume, for a length of time without that sort of conduct being disciplined. So there's a whole host of things as it relates to information management, access, publication, that it appears that there's literally no record of compliance. There's no record of them posting information about the city lawsuits, which is also required by Prop A. Just on and on and on. I think with respect to the individual operations of the OPO, that's a little bit harder for me to judge on the outside. I can say, based on the information and the data that was presented during the working group session, that there are a lot of questions about how exactly they're classifying complaints, whether or not all complaints, as APOA requires, are being treated equally. With respect to their investigation of those complaints, how and whether they're actually making the determination about whether a full investigation occur following their mandatory sort of preliminary review of each complaint, as well as, again, the whole recommendation process, because, again, nothing's been posted. And then, I think one other thing that came out during the work group was the fact that with respect to one part of APO implementation, which is being a liaison to complainants, particularly with respect to how they're then given access to body-worn camera footage, which by the city's own policy can be published within 10 days, I believe. They said that they direct them to put in a public information request, which, if they now have full and unfettered access to the body-worn camera system, or at minimum, the ability to work with the police department to provide to them the typically published redacted version of body-worn camera footage, wouldn't be how they would serve as a liaison to people who have filed a complaint with the department. I have one more thing to say, but I do want to stop there if there are any follow-up questions that you have with respect to any of that.
I'm just gonna just check in on online real quick to make sure I'm not missing anyone. I do have a question for Director McCann. Chris touched on the liaison sort of aspect of the Office of Police Oversight, being a liaison for the community, being a liaison for complainants. This ties in a bit to a previous agenda item that we've spoken to when we were talking about officer-involved shootings, where you weren't able to join us. And so can you talk a little bit about what the Office of Police Oversight has been doing with regards to liaising with community members for complaints?
Yes, absolutely. So as complainants file complaints and they follow back up with us, we are providing for them as much information as we can within the confines of state law. So we are letting the persons know that your complaint is either open, it's closed, it's pending, when disciplinary actions will be, the date disciplinary actions will be issued. There are things that we are unable to disclose to complainants. And again, the legal department is not here. But again, the reason for that is based on confidential information that we're unable to disclose. But we are disclosing as much information as possible with complainants.
Commissioner Rutan.
I just want to follow up on something there because this is not my area of expertise as a medical professional, but I was curious if you could explain the posting aspect that was mentioned. Because I just went to the website, and the last complaint is dated March 31st, 2023, in terms of complaints made to the OPO, and the last disciplinary one, as was mentioned, is May 12th. And what's the lag in getting those reported? Because I can't imagine that hasn't been more citizen things brought up to the OPO on that.
So I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
On the website for the OPO, where it has a link to the disciplinary as well as the citizen reports, which is, as I understand it by the Resolution 99, is supposed to be reported with anonymous information in terms of what's on there. The last complaint that was put to the OPO is dated March 31st. Has there not been a complaint since March 31st, or was there a technical issue in terms of getting those posted since then?
If you're referencing our ability to post disciplinary actions related to complaints, again, once we were no longer in a meet and confer agreement, we were not able to continue to post those complaints because we are now required to adhere to state law. And as of April, I think April was the last complaint that we were allowed to post. And again, we are posting information within the confines of state law. The fact that we have not posted any disciplinary action since April would state that there hasn't been any additional disciplinary actions, and therefore we have not posted those. If you look in the ordinance, their definition of discipline includes a written reprimand, it includes training, and so that's not to say that those things have not happened. We just don't have the ability to post those complaints. We have the ability to post complaints where there is uncompensated leave, like a suspension or something more severe. We would post those complaints, a termination or something like that.
So that's then just to follow up on that. So is there a timeline for having the complaints that are made at the OPO to get that back on track, or what's the process of that? 'Cause that was an important part
Again,
of the
it's
resolution.
my understanding, and again, the legal department is not here and I can't speak for them, but again, the legal department is my understanding that they are exploring options to make that information available. But again, it's our understanding that due to state law, we're unable to post that information to our website. Therefore, we've, as you noted in the work group, we have attempted to provide as much information as we can. So we're providing data in terms of like the number of complaints, what kind of complaints were filed, but we're not able to provide those redacted complaints that we were previously posting to our website prior to the meet and confer expiring.
Okay, I saw Commissioner Bernhardt's hand go up. I categorically disagree with the idea that not having a meet and confer means that we are not allowed to take complaints, or I am also not a lawyer, but I've read Chapter 143, and I don't believe that that's what it says. So I don't agree with that position, and if that's the
Understood.
position of the city, woo. So with that, I'm going to just go ahead and go to Commissioner Bernhardt.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm having a hard time sort of coming up with a shorter sort of list of questions because I'm afraid, Director McCant, kind of every time you answer a question, it raises like 10 new questions. And that's really confusing. And I understand that we're getting back to this idea that the G file is somehow sacred and that the citizens of Austin, through a proposition, can't opt out of it, which is really confusing to me. But I have a question about, I know that, the 95% compliance with proposition or with Resolution 99 was based on, again, a whole bunch of descriptions of Resolution 99 that didn't actually use the language of Resolution 99 and seemed to change the meaning. For example, on the descriptions of one of the things that supposedly implemented of Resolution 99 is the phrase, OPO will conduct preliminary investigation on qualifying complaints. That language is supposed to be describing the following section of Resolution 99. The OPO will immediately begin to conduct a preliminary investigation for all complaints defined by City Code Section 2-15-2 sub F, where the complainant provides enough information to identify the incident in existing records, including but not limited to review of body camera footage and any available police reports and force incident reports subject to the CJIS certification requirements. What's a qualifying complaint? Why is there a narrowing of what Resolution 99 says, which is all complaints, to something called a qualifying complaint?
Let me say that the Office of Police Oversight first is doing a preliminary investigation on complaints received. In terms of a qualifying complaint, sometimes we receive complaints that are outside our purview. Individuals may make complaints against a state trooper, which is outside our purview, and it doesn't qualify. It's not a complaint that our office can investigate or do a preliminary investigation. So it may be outside of our jurisdiction. It may be a complaint against a resource officer or a complaint against an officer in another city, Round
Right.
Rock or
Okay.
Leander. And so those would be those complaints that we consider that are not qualified for the Office of Police Oversight to conduct an investigation.
Are there any complaints that are considered not qualifying for preliminary investigation that fall into any other categories except a complaint about a law enforcement officer or government official who doesn't actually work for the city, or a complaint that lacks the basic information in terms of date, time, location, and identifying the involved people? Are there any other unqualifying or non-qualifying complaints?
Not that I can think of at this time. Again, if we have a date, if we have a time, if we have a location, and we have the ability to do a preliminary review, we are doing a preliminary review on all complaints that are coming into our office if we have enough information to do so.
And this is already happening. Like
That is
every
correct.
place where it says that Proposition 99 is being implemented and the word will is used, which is future tense, it's happening right now.
That is correct. As you noted, there is only one provision in Resolution 99 that we are not implementing, and that provision is related to posting to his question, posting of complaints. And again, that is related to our inability to do that based on state law.
Okay, Commissioner Bernhardt, we have
Yes, go ahead.
we have 3 minutes left. Commissioner Nguyen, I think you had, and then Chris.
Director McCant, so just to follow up to what we were talking about before, is there any future goal of having your own record keeping or managing the body cameras so that there's a little bit more of independent investigation and no need to involve APD?
At this time, let me just talk about prior to October 1. I think October 1 is the date where we completed all the training related to the systems, the APD systems. Prior to that, our investigators or complaint specialists were having to actually request the information and wait to receive that information. That is no longer the case. If we get a complaint, we have the ability currently to access the information we need without involving APD, without having to make a request for that information. So we have that independent access to those databases as Chief Greenwald described.
Just to follow up, though, I still have a little bit of concern because from what I understand, if an inquiry happens of an officer or something like that, that's recorded in APD system, correct? So it might raise some type of bell that, OPO accessed this specific file. Is that what I'm, or not?
I'm not understanding the question.
So basically, if you had a complaint against an officer and you were going to go into APD system and look into a record of some sort, that is now recorded in their system that you've accessed that specific file, correct?
That is correct, and I'm sure they would have the ability to identify that the system has been accessed and what information was accessed. I would have to ask Chief Greenwald, may have more
So
information.
that's kind of where my concern is that, there's still a lack of that independence just because you will be able to investigate. However, there's still alarm bells being raised on the APD side.
I can say that while the system can be audited after the fact, there's no notification system that they log in or query a name or look at a video. We would have to be notified and be concerned about the fact and go look afterwards. But if they go in and look at 10 different videos, we're not getting automatic alerts or emails or anything like that.
And then, Chris, did you have any closing sort of thoughts?
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. And thank you for your questions related specifically to the things that have been posted, because I think you're referencing exactly some of the things I'm talking about. And I would say, to the fact that there have not been any suspension or hire worthy types of discipline for an officer since, May 12th, I would really, really like to believe that is because of Prop A, right, doing what it was meant to do, which is deter police misconduct and brutality, right? Such that, now officers are not committing these sort of policy violations, leading to the sort of discipline that is required to be posted out online. The issue is that unfortunately we can't trust that that's the case because of the ongoing secrecy that the city clings to with its interpretation of Chapter 143 and the G file. So what Director McCann is mentioning with respect to the city legal's interpretation that they cannot post these complaints, meaning unsubstantiated, undisciplined complaints, is an interpretation of 143 that says that anything that doesn't result in discipline, that's a suspension or more, can be hidden forever, right, in this G file. And this is done and is maintained in 143 cities of our size around the state, seemingly in the interest of protecting officers from false accusations and those being made public. I will note that this protection does not exist for the vast majority of law enforcement around the state, including no sheriff's deputies and officers in cities of different sizes who don't fall under Chapter 143 without big issues in terms of damage to their reputations. But the other side of this interpretation of the G file itself is that it creates this perverse incentive to not discipline officers, because then you get to keep the record secret. Right? So if we don't suspend or fire any officers related to this incident, then all of the records about it get to stay secret forever. In fact, must, if we have or maintain something referenced under Chapter 143 as a G file. And so you see none of the officers that were initially indicted, and even the 4 or 5 that remain indicted for violence against protesters, not one was subjected to any discipline. And so we know nothing about the conduct that occurred during those incidents. Christopher Taylor was not disciplined for his role in the killing of Maurice Da Silva. He was on the force and then 9 months later killed Mike Ramos. He's now indicted for murder in both cases. We see, it came out during the trial, Christopher Taylor's uncle was on the investigatory team, the police investigatory team. He had a long conversation off body cam with Christopher Taylor at the incident right after he killed Mike Ramos. We see over and over, and then the police department and the city have refused to hand over information related to any of these incidents, again, because there was no discipline imparted to the press, who have asked post Prop A, even though our proposition says you're not supposed to keep these records secret anymore, and to the district attorney, who's asked for these records in conjunction with his efforts to hold officers accountable at the criminal side, since the city has failed on its side. And so, unfortunately, we live in a situation where we simply cannot trust that what we're seeing with respect to a lack of discipline by the police department in the months since Prop 8 passed is legitimate and true and reflects that this misconduct is no longer occurring. And therefore, we badly need not only for Prop A to be implemented, but for this secrecy to end, for true transparency to come. And guess what? It helps everybody if it does, not just people like me that want to, see something different, but it helps the OPO because people will trust that things that they're saying are true. It will help APD because people will trust that their officers are actually acting properly and not being exonerated improperly. And of course, it helps the public because we know more about how our institutions that our public dollars pay for are operating, and that they're treating us fairly and justly. So I'm sorry that was long-winded, but
That's okay.
it's just really important that we have a strong oversight system and transparency that goes along with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Director McGant, for joining us. Again, at the end of the day, I think everyone at this table and a lot of the people watching just want an autonomous, independent, strong office of police oversight that can execute its duties without being micromanaged and here, that's what we want. So thank you for joining us. I hope we can continue these conversations. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Commissioners.
And we're going to move on to the next item.